we want Lagosians to know that the Federal Executive Council has awarded the rehabilitation and the maintenance of the Third Mainland Bridge. The entire bridge, the maintenance has been awarded to Mr. Bruni Prono. And, in starting the maintenance work itself, you need to determine some of the expansion joints that are affected that will be replaced. So that dynamic text is just to determine some of those expansion joints that are bad and that needs replacement.
Going to test the entire section that goes from the Lagos Island up to just past the Ebutameta interchange. From there on, the construction is still, let me say, relatively new compared with the first section, and the method of construction used is a more traditional method that allows the positioning of bearings. Instead, these ones that have to be replaced are on two cantilever and shear connectors, which are more affected by the aging and the traffic volume.
Right, so to shed some light on what to expect about the Third Mainland Bridge and more, let's go over to Abuja. Markwe.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. We have with us this morning the Minister for Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, SAN. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, let's quickly, we already have the Third Mainland Bridge question there. We saw in the papers that it was going to be shut down for 27 months. And I'm sure a lot of Nigerians have questions with that. But let us quickly go to one area which we hardly ever touch, because it would seem that power and works always take the bulk of the time, which is housing. You have questioned in recent times the deficit we have in the housing. I think some people put it at 17 million houses needed to ensure that all Nigerians have houses. But you have wondered who conducted such a census. What figures then is the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing working with to try and bridge that whatever deficit they believe exists in the market?
I think it's a good place to start the conversation. And what I want to say first is that as part of the media organization, I think we must interrogate some of the people who come to present figures. They're very important. And I say that in the sense that if you ask a couple of Nigerians today, depending on who you ask, they will tell you our population is nearing 200 million, they will tell you it's 200 million, they will tell you it's 170 million. And I think the conversation we should first be asking is, why haven't we had a census? And when should we need one like yesterday?
So who should we be posing that question
Yes,
to?
it is us, government.
Government.
And to the best of my knowledge, I think that if I recall, the news reports was that, well, because there was an election, there was no appropriation for it. Some people felt it was too close to have an election. These are matters you also reported. But I think that a census is a more important developmental tool for our country. Now to the question about the deficit, who conducted the census of housing? Those are the questions I think I should ask. Because I say that the deficit shouldn't define us. What we should really be focused on, what this administration is doing, developing a housing model that we can then build progressively over years. The British housing model is 100 years old this year. Not everybody in that country owns a home. Not everybody even has a shelter. And there's data of homeless people currently being conducted that I am aware of in the UK and many other parts of the world. Our housing model has started. We're building in 34 states. We are piloting now to validate first the acceptability of the model and the affordability before we roll out. Acceptability and affordability are important, and they're relevant to the question that you raised about the data of deficit. In every city that I have been to in this country, there is one empty house or the other. The person who conducted that census include the number of empty houses? Are there housing deficits in rural areas, and how many are they? I say that because we had a conversation the other day and somebody was telling me argument he was having with his father. And he kept saying, Daddy, where did you hear this? I was there. It's not true. I said, no, the news said it, so it must be true. So whatever comes out of here and other people who operate in the conventional media space must be authenticated, it must be stress tested before it is released to the public, because the public believes what comes out of here.
What I find very interesting is that the federal government is working with 34 states because, I mean, it has made it very obvious they don't control land. They have to get land from the states, and states have to buy into the program. I mean, there is, I think, housing is on the concurrent list. States also have some jurisdiction there. But where it does have full powers, like in the Federal Capital Territory, where it could have perhaps shown a model of it, it's been very quiet here.
No, we're building in Gwagwalada too. And don't forget, there was a national housing model during President Shagari's time. At this moment, we have about requests from about 10 or 15 states. I need to be careful there, about at least 10 states, where people are saying, look, those houses were abandoned, people never moved into them in some states. And they want to either take them off or buy them off, and we're reviewing those requests. And for me, that raises questions. Why didn't people move in those houses? And that is why, first, we did audits, we did consultations, we called in private sector architects, we used government architects from different parts of the country. And the things we started dealing with were cultural diversity, land use diversity, about how to build for different parts of the country. There will be no one size fits all. So what we've seen is that largely in the north, buildings must respect their privacy, and you must build in such a way that you build courtyards at the rear. They also prefer bungalows, partly because of the climatic conditions, and so on and so forth. In the south, we see that blocks of flats are easily more acceptable. So we are rolling out those models in different parts of the country based on the feedback that we have received. Of course, we then have to stress test them for affordability. Can you afford to pay for this?
What model are you rolling out here in the Federal Capital Territory?
1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. What we have in the Federal Capital Territory in Gwagwalada is a mixture of bungalows and a mixture of blocks of flats.
Honorable Minister, we've heard from you on what you see is a solution, which is, of course, the capitalization of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria. Currently, it's capitalized, if I'm not mistaken, to the tune of about 1.5 billion. Mortgages of about 2,700 since 2015 of about 20 billion, but you've asked that the capitalization goes up to 500 billion. In view of some of the past corruption within the FMBN, if it is capitalized to the tune of 500 billion, how certain are you that that money would go to address the housing deficit in the country?